All right, welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving headfirst into the high-stakes, time-bending world of the 2026 sci-fi thriller Mercy. Directed by Timur Bekmambetov, this film literally drops us into a grim future, where the justice system has been completely handed over to algorithms, and human life, well, it's put on a literal countdown timer. So think about this for a second. If an AI gave you exactly 90 minutes to prove your innocence or face immediate execution, could you actually do it? This incredibly provocative question is the beating heart of our explainer today. I mean, just imagine being strapped to a chair, watching a digital timer tick down, knowing your very life depends on outsmarting a machine that has already calculated your guilt. It's intense, right?
Section 1. A dark dystopian premise.
Let's set the stage here. It's Los Angeles in the year 2029, and a massive surge in violent crime has completely transformed the justice system. To assemble evidence instantly, the city relies on total, unavoidable surveillance. Every single device is hooked up to a massive municipal cloud, so there's absolutely no privacy left. Your doorbell, your phone, your work emails, the Mercy Capital Court can access the whole shebang in a split second to pass judgment on violent crimes.
And the rules of this court are just brutal. First, the AI evaluates the evidence and issues a judgment. But here is the catch. The defendant is given exactly 90 minutes to use all available digital resources to find evidence proving their innocence. You have to actively lower your guilt score to unlock your execution chair before that timer hits 0. And if you fail, you're executed, right there in the chair by a lethal sonic blast. No appeals, no delays.
Now, 97.5%. That is the staggering guilt probability our protagonist, LAPD Detective Chris Raven, played by Chris Pratt, is staring down right off the bat. The crazy thing is, Raven is actually a massive supporter of this AI court system. But wow, do the tables turn when he's the one strapped into the chair, accused of murdering his own wife, Nicole.
Section 2. The 90-minute trial.
So Chris is locked in. Presiding over his case is AI Judge Maddox, voiced by Rebecca Ferguson. To survive, Chris has to get that guilt score down. He needs it at 92% just to trigger reasonable doubt, or down to 80% to earn a full Mercy trial. Now, because AI protocols forbid the machine from directly taking a human life, the 90-minute timer operates completely on its own. So Chris basically has to team up with his digital executioner using Maddox's unrestricted cloud access to find the truth and command that chair to unlock.
But the deck is hugely stacked against him, and he only has minutes to uncover his wife's secret life. I mean, the initial evidence is incredibly damning. Nicole's blood was literally found on his clothing. Plus, his own doorbell camera places him right at their home moments before she was killed. Toss in the fact that Chris had recently relapsed into alcoholism, had become aggressive, and Nicole was considering a divorce. Yeah, you can completely see why the AI spat out a 97.5% guilt calculation. It makes total sense on paper.
Section 3. Unraveling the conspiracy. With the clock ticking, the narrative gets super intricate as Chris uses Maddox's system to map out real suspects. Chris's partner, Jay, tracks down a guy named Patrick Burke, who Nicole was secretly seeing because Chris's drinking made him totally unreachable. But Patrick points the finger back at her workplace where some chemicals recently vanished. So Maddox pulls up a coworker with money troubles, Holt Charles. But here is the massive twist. When Chris tries to call his own AA sponsor, Rob Nelson, just to see if he knows anything, Holt answers the phone. Boom! The horrifying truth drops that Rob, the very guy supposed to be keeping Chris sober, is the one who orchestrated the missing chemicals.
Piece by digital piece, a truly terrifying reality comes into focus. Chris realizes Rob has literally been hiding in his basement, orchestrating this massive, deadly frame-up. They track Rob's digital breadcrumbs, spotting him on neighbors' cameras, catching him exiting a trunk on parking lot surveillance. And when SWAT raids Rob's house, they don't find him, but they do find detailed plans to build a massive bomb.
And then, the ultimate realization hits. This isn't just a personal grudge against Chris. This is a highly calculated revenge plot against the entire AI justice system. Maddox discovers that Rob was adopted and separated from his biological brother, David Webb. And get this, David Webb was the very first person ever executed by the Mercy Court. Rob is out to destroy the machine that killed his brother, and he's just using Chris as a pawn to do it.
Section 4. The explosive climax.
Chris actually manages to officially acquit himself, but he refuses to end the trial because he desperately needs Maddox's system access to find his kidnapped daughter, Britt. The final minutes are just pure, frantic adrenaline. At minute 60, Rob kidnaps Britt into a stolen semi-truck packed with explosives. 10 minutes later, a booby trap in Rob's shed wipes out the SWAT team. Out on the streets, Chris's partner Jock goes rogue, ordering the police to blow up Rob's truck, completely ignoring Chris begging him to stop. The bomb fails, and Rob literally crashes the semi-truck right into the Mercy courthouse. This massive impact triggers a network glitch, freezing the whole system. But at minute 89, AI Maddox pulls off a last-second reboot and unlocks Chris's chair right before the sonic blast goes off.
But hold on, the story doesn't end with the crash. Chris disarms Rob, but Rob demands Maddox reopen his brother's case. He drops a bombshell. He was actually on the phone with David when that original murder happened, proving David couldn't have been at the crime scene. And Maddox actually confirms the call's location data. So, why on earth didn't the ultra-smart AI court see this? Well, Maddox digs a little deeper and uncovers a shocking truth about Chris's partner, Jock.
The horrifying reality is that human corruption, not the AI, was the true villain the whole time. Maddox pulls up security footage showing Jacques retrieving that exact phone from the crime scene, completely removing it from evidence and just dumping it into a river. Jacques deliberately hid the evidence to ensure David was found guilty. Why? Just so the very first major judgment of the AI court would be a quote-unquote success to prove the system worked. Ultimately, both Jacques and Rob are taken into custody, leaving Chris and Maddox to acknowledge that both humans and AI have some massive, fatal flaws.
Section 5. The critical verdict. Now, while Detective Raven managed to survive his 90-minute ordeal, the film itself had to face the brutal, real-world judgment of the box office and movie critics. Despite a really cool premise, Chris Pratt's star power, and a $60 million budget, the film barely crossed the $54.3 million mark worldwide. It did actually debut at #1, taking down Avatar: Fire and Ash, but its run was severely handicapped by a massive winter storm in North America that forced around 400 theaters to close during its opening weekend.
But honestly, the weather was the least of its problems. Audiences and reviewers largely flat-out rejected the film. It's currently sitting at a rough 24% on Rotten Tomatoes and holds a dismal Metacritic score of 34. CinemaScore audiences didn't love it either, giving it a pretty lukewarm B-.
The critics really did not hold back. Many actually compared the film's execution to the very soulless AI it was trying to critique. Peter Howell of the Toronto Star gave it a 0 out of 4, saying it was, quote, lazily written, chaotically directed, and played out with all the zest of a convenience store security video. Ouch. Others pointed out that it adopted the aesthetics of a police-state dystopia without ever genuinely wrestling with the ethics of privacy invasion.
Ultimately, a lot of folks viewed Mercy as a clunky, airless techno-thriller that just borrowed way too heavily from much better sci-fi classics. Critic Bob Mondello called it cinematic junk food, comparing it unfavorably to Steven Spielberg's Minority Report. Other reviewers noted heavy similarities to RoboCop, The Fugitive, and even the director's own previous screenlife film, Searching.
It's incredibly fascinating, isn't it? A movie fundamentally about the dangers of a flawed technological system ended up being heavily criticized for feeling like it was generated by one. So, does Mercy serve as a chilling warning about our growing dependency on AI, or is it just a cautionary tale for Hollywood filmmakers about cutting corners? We'll leave you with that final thought to ponder about the incredibly fine line between technological innovation and cinematic execution. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning the data in front of you.